Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're over on the YouTube account and we are continuing our journey with our class breakdowns, guys. And today we're going to be looking at the Rangers. Now overall within AFK Arena, the Rangers have been probably one of the most stable and really staple classes when it comes to AFK Arena. If you ran an early Abyssal Expedition, they were just absolutely dominating. Everybody ran Rangers every single time. They continue to do a lot of damage and have a lot of really high profile heroes within AFK Arena. So let's hop over. We're going to build up the tier list and break it down. All right, guys, so here we are with the Ranger breakdown for the tier maker. Just like we've seen in the last couple, guys, we're going to start from the top left with the Awakened version of Thane. Now, overall, guys, when it comes to the Rangers, he is really top tier. Big reason is Treasure Scramble, he does incredibly well. PvP aspect does incredibly well. Lightbearer Tower, of course, he dominates in there. Overall, again, with the Awakened heroes, the power they possess, even with building out a couple different classes, couple different formations, he will still work incredibly well. When ranked among the other Awakened heroes is a little bit lower down the tier list, but overall still does incredibly well. Followed by Lucretia, guys. Lucretia, since release, she is one of the dominant forces within so many different game modes. Also see her in kind of the Curse Realm. We still see her in. Again, some of the best in slot teams still have her. Also see her utilized within the Treasure Scramble. See her within the Nightmare Corridor. Again, depending on who you have built. Big thing with her, guys, is we can also solo carry within the Hippo Tower, and she still dominates the campaign formations as well as the regular tower. She is a one-woman army, which is really not many heroes can say that, guys. She actually amplifies the damage from the rest of the team dying out. Then we get into Raku. That is right, the Rascal. He works really incredibly well. He really amplifies the damage with the crowd control. Again, we're still seeing him in a lot of the boss formations that we see. Also having a lot of utility within the campaign formations as well as the tower progression itself. Works incredibly well with Leonardo da Vinci as well as a couple other heroes like Mishka, because again, damage amplification that he possesses from the crowd control that is provided not only from him, but from other heroes as well. Then we get into Orin, guys, which is probably one of the absolute biggest overlooked heroes within AFK Arena for a majority of players. If you do not have this Awakened version of Thane, Orin is really the one to put in the slot. When you look at the Wilder Tower, he can crush a bunch of different comps. When you look at the Curse Realm and the Nightmare Corridor, still running in some of the best in slot teams. Again, does a lot of damage, has crowd control, a lot of burst damage with this hero. Then we get into Crescio, guys. Honestly, when you look at Crescio, not only is he in a bunch of different formations, we are also seeing him very, very predominant when it comes to the Mauler Tower. Again, I know Maulers are not super effective when it comes to the tower, but he is one of the absolute breakout heroes. We are also seeing him best in slot in some of the Nightmare Corridor as well as some of the Curse Realm within those team comps. Again, working very well and really doing a ton of damage in those game modes. And then, of course, we have Baden, the Awakened version of Baden, guys. Again, one of the top tier heroes to build within the Awakened and is literally used in every single game mode, from the Twisted Realm, the Cursed Realm, the Nightmare Corridor, the Treasure Scramble, even the campaign formations, even looking at the Temporal Rift. The Awakened version of Baden is used everywhere within those game modes, which is one of the reasons, again, he is one of the higher priority heroes for the Awakened version to actually build. Now, the second one, we put the required in comps, and the reason for this, guys, is there are a couple heroes, and again, we're going to start with Iran right here, is the 5-pull does not work or does not exist in its entirety if you do not have Iran, so he is absolutely required in comps. There are so many comps, again, that are built around the 5-pull, especially when it comes to campaign formations. When you look at the combination of Lucretia and some other crowd control aspects, it does not work without this hero in his entirety, guys, which is the same from Leica. So Leica actually has the Awe ability, which adds haste and energy right off of the bat. Again, there are a lot of formations with Zorath do not work without actually having Leica within that formation, just because of the speed and the haste that heroes get right off of the bat. Again, makes it very, very viable with the formations based around Leica Zorath combinations. Then we look at Ezio. Ezio, there are a few comps where Ezio really is huge, which of course goes hand in hand with the awakened version of Brutus. Brutus has a lot of crowd control, but Ezio is really the finisher in there with those insta kills. There are, again, a lot of different formations, especially campaign formations, where Ezio makes a game-changing difference. Without him, it's a little dicey in some of the formations because, again, Brutus can get them pretty low, but the insta one shot that Ezio provides is huge. Then we get into the niche formations, guys, which of course we have Kelthar. Kelthar within the Thorn Cheese is really one of the biggest niche formations. It does work incredibly well, but again, because of his I think it's Eternal Spectre. When he dies, he comes back as a different version of him, a actually undead version of himself. But that is the reason it can usually take out targets, works well in the Thorn Cheese, but very niche, guys, because if you are not running the Thorn Cheese like a lot of players do not, he will have absolutely no place, which is the same with Olgath. Olgath doesn't have a lot of utility, but we are seeing him in the best in slot team for the Treasure Scramble, running with Matria. And ultimately, guys, if you do not have Matria built, there is no reason to build Olgath. Overall, tower formations, he can be in a formation. Again, it doesn't make a huge difference if he is not in a formation, because with that tower specifically, you have Lucretia in one formation, and then you usually have the Khazard Mahira combo in the second combination, which again, if you don't have Matria built out, there is really no reason to build out Olgath actually at this point. Now, when it comes to Mulan, Mulan might be a little bit of a higher tier hero. Overall, she's seen a little bit of utility, which is the reason why I kind of put her in this niche formation. We've seen her run in a couple Treasure Scramble comps, but she was in the Nightmare Corridor for a little bit. She was in the Cursed Realm for a little bit, and it seems very short-lived, but I don't think a lot of formations now are running her. I feel like as we continue into AFK Arena, we're going to see her kind of utilized less and less within formations, just based on the build. I still like her build personally, but again, I'm basing my tier list that we're creating kind of on the utility of multiple different game modes and where we're actually seeing heroes, which brings us to Treznar, guys. Now, Treznar, of course, with the engraving piece, he can actually not only go immune with damage, but he also can provide a no healing debuff on targets. Now, he was the original Ainz killer, guys, because again, Ainz could be shut down absolutely with Treznar. But since then, it doesn't seem like Treznar is really into any formations. Again, depending on the team that you're fighting is really the niche that it might fall into, but overall, not a ton of utility within formations. Again, even the PvP aspect, not super prevalent unless you're running multiple teams, just because they are primarily dominated with those awakened heroes in the PvP aspect. And then we have Theowen, guys. Theowen, when built, works incredibly well, even works incredibly well within a bunch of different game modes. Big thing with her, guys, is when she casts some of her skills and abilities, she becomes immune, which is huge. She actually does some damage on a target, but she is immune to damage when she, again, uses a couple different skills and abilities. Really big within the Graveborn Tower, works incredibly well. Also seen her solo some comps within the Abyssal Expedition, which again is kind of crazy. But overall, guys, really kind of niche. And then we get into the towers. So with the original version of Athalia, I know she still does have a little prevalent within PvP. But overall, when you look at the Celestial Tower specifically with both Athalia and with Audrey, they are two of the really big driving forces within that game mode, because the tower, you have a lot of buffers, you have some crowd control, but overall, when it comes to straight damage within the tower, it is incredibly difficult to go through stages without having one or two of these heroes built, because these are the big damage dealer, guys. These are the ones that are going to be maximizing damage, are these two heroes. Again, with the awakened version of Athalia, kind of replacing a majority of where the original version of Athalia was. The only place, again, that she's really being utilized is the tower, of course, for the damage aspect, and then kind of a one-off niche formation that we've seen kind of here and there if you have a majority of the heroes built. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the utilization anymore, which is the same with Audrey. Like we were saying, Audrey within the tower works incredibly well. Short of there, she isn't used anywhere anymore, which brings us to Kren. Mauler Tower, absolutely 100% required. Also see him in, I believe, one other Curse Realm comp at this point. But overall, guys, starting to lose a little bit of his utility. Not really seeing him in many game modes. I don't use him in the campaign. And then when it comes to Curse Realm, Twisted Realm, Nightmare Corridor, things of that nature, he unfortunately is not in the comps anymore. Again, slowly being replaced by those Awakened heroes, which is the same with Pharrell, guys. Now, Pharrell does sometimes show up in Treasure Scramble teams, again, depending on what you're running, because of the crowd control and the energy disintegration aspect that he does have, which is huge when it comes to the Greyborn Tower, guys. Super, super important to have the crowd control in there, especially when you start getting into multiple teams. It works incredibly well. And then, of course, the OG, the original version of Thane, guys. Within the tower, he can still carry, but he has to be built out. When I mean built out, I mean a 30960, completely in his entirety built out. That is the only way that you are going to have him pull damage. Short of that, unfortunately, not used anywhere anymore within AFK Arena, short of the tower if you have him built. Now, the next tier, what Rangers? These are usually the ones that are not used very much, which honestly with Drez, I'm going to move Drez up to the niche formation. Again, just because there are a couple places where in specific combinations, Drez can actually work pretty well. And he also does work pretty well. Again, requires a build out for him to actually be effective, but he can be effective in a couple different game modes. And like I said, guys, there are a few kind of one-off places that we have seen him utilized. Now, looking at the bottom tier, Prince of Persia, unfortunately, with this crowd control, doesn't seem like really any utility anymore. I don't know anywhere that he is actually being used. For a while with the crowd control, he was wildly used, guys. He was absolutely amazing when it came to the sun. As we continue to get more heroes every 2 weeks, as the power creep continues, unfortunately, he is not really used anymore, which is the same with Gwen. Gwen used to run absolutely amazing with Arthur in a formation, with Hendrik in a formation. Overall, with those stunning arrows, even running with Joker in a formation. As of now, guys, doesn't do out enough damage, especially even in the towers. When it comes to a comparison of damage, she is not doing it. A lot of players just run her strictly for the lightning arrows, which provide crowd control in some aspect, but even a lot of places do not run her at all, which is similar to Titus. Titus, unfortunately, is a hero within the Mauler faction that does some crowd control, but overall not a lot of utility anymore within AFK Arena, which is the same with Kaz, guys. Kaz is one of the few that can actually evade magical attacks, but even in the tower, not a lot of utility. Same with Respin. Respin was used in a little bit of PvP, has since been replaced, unfortunately, so short of possibly having him if you use him in the tower. Most players don't, short of using him for fodder. Then we have Vert, guys. Every now and then, Vert can work with the traps, but ultimately, guys, you can interrupt his ultimate ability, which is the reason why a lot of players have kind of shelved him a long time ago. Again, because of the limited heroes that you do have within the Mauler Tower, you could possibly drop him just to really counteract the enemies coming to the allied side with the traps that he does possess. And then Joker, unfortunately, without a dimensional tower, guys, not seeing a lot of utility. We seen possibly a little bit of comeback here and there. Some players have run Joker a little bit, but overall, again, when you look at multiple game modes, not used anywhere. And even then, the damage that he puts out is relatively low compared to the new heroes, which Cecilia is another hero that was similar to Athalia because of the targeting, being able to actually go over to the enemy side. Tower, you could possibly use her. Again, I don't use her at all, which is the same with Falks, guys. They are two heroes that once upon a time, they were used quite a bit. As of today, not really a lot of utility. Nakaruru, unfortunately, is one that not many people have ever used. Even when she was released, we built her up a little bit. Never really found a place within formations, within boss modes, anything of that nature. Not seeing a lot of play. And then, of course, we do have Oscar down here, which is another hero, unfortunately, never found a place, similar to Walker, similar to Rigby. A couple of heroes within Lightbearer faction that have just literally never found a place within AFK Arena, short of it being the story or the lore that they really possess. Alright guys, so that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.